Welcome to Karma Chronicles. Please like the video and subscribe. Let's begin.
I was finishing up a carburetor rebuild when my phone buzzed on the workbench. I wiped my hands on a rag and saw a text from my cousin Miranda. Miranda, go watch my live stream right now. You're gonna want to see this. No context, just that. I clicked the link, figuring it was one of her usual rants or some new MLM junk. What came up instead? A live stream from her mom's kitchen, half the family crammed around the table, plates of pasta, bottles of wine, someone holding a phone to film. And there, right there in the middle, was my dad, slouched in a chair, half drunk, face red, slurring his words just enough to sound mean. He thinks running some backwoods garage makes him special, he said, waving his fork like a mic. Dropped out of college because he couldn't hack it. Now he calls himself a mechanic, like that means anything. Somebody off camera snorted. Aunt Debbie, probably. My stomach dropped. I turned up the volume. He's a damn burnout, Dad said, laughing. Always has been. Could have done something decent, but nope. Wrenches and oil and some fantasy about airplanes. Like that'll ever happen. He's just wasting time. Nobody stopped him. Nobody said a word. A couple cousins even laughed. I just stood there in my garage, screen in hand, grease still on my fingertips, and felt the floor drop out from under me. What they didn't know, what Dad damn well did, is that I've been paying his bills for 5 years, every single thing since his accident. Physical therapy, meds, insurance premiums, the stair lift in his apartment, me. He always called me his rock, said I kept him going. That live stream, it told the real story. He didn't respect me, he never had. And now he wasn't even trying to hide it. Quick note, before we go any further, share which city or country you're watching from. I stood there for a solid minute, heart pounding in my ears. Then I ended the video, wiped the grease off my hands, and walked out to the driveway without saying a word to anyone. I got in my truck and just sat there, not driving, not thinking, just sitting. The live stream was still burning in the back of my skull like a fresh slap I couldn't shake. 5 years ago, I was sitting in a completely different seat. Back row of a dull community college classroom, half asleep, working toward my aircraft tech license. That was the plan. Fix planes, not cars. Something real. Something with wings. Then the call came. Your father's been hurt, the nurse said. Bad fall at the plant. Spinal trauma. He's stable, but he'll need long-term care. I remember the drive to the hospital, rain hammering the windshield, my knuckles locked on the steering wheel. When I walked into that room and saw him laid up in a neck brace, pale and quiet for once, it was like looking at a version of him I didn't recognize. Weak, scared. He cried. First time I'd seen him do that since Mom died. Don't let them dump me in some state home, he said. Please, I can't end up like that. I need time to recover. I'll bounce back. He didn't bounce back. A month later, he was diagnosed with degenerative spinal stenosis. No cure. Just meds, therapy, pain management, and the reality that he'd never go back to the line. He panicked. Insurance only covered a fraction. He kept repeating the same thing. We're screwed. They're gonna let me rot. So I stepped up. I dropped out, cashed out what little savings I had, found a rundown property near Route 28 and started the garage. At first, it was just oil changes and brake jobs out of a metal box with no heat. I worked double shifts, took night calls, even drove out to farms in the winter to fix busted trucks in the snow. Everything I earned, I funneled back into 2 things, keeping the shop open and keeping him alive. I handled it all. Insurance battles, Medicaid paperwork, prescriptions, specialists. Drove him to PT 3 days a week, picked up his meds, argued with billing offices that tried to double charge him. I gave up everything for him. My education, my social life, dating, weekends, sleep. And every once in a while, he'd look at me and say, "You're my rock, you know that? I don't know what I'd do without you." And I believed it. God help me, I believed it. Because when your own father tells you you're his lifeline, it tricks you into thinking you matter, that the bond's real, that you're not just a wallet with a wrench. But watching that video, seeing him trash me in front of the same family I used to defend him to, it stripped every one of those moments bare. The rock thing, that was just another script he used when he needed something. Truth was, I was never a son to him. I was a backup plan, a body with a paycheck. All those years, I thought we were surviving together. Nope. I was just keeping him afloat while he dragged me under. I didn't even realize I'd started driving until I pulled into my shop's lot again. The engine was off, but my hands were still locked on the wheel like I was bracing for a crash. I wasn't mad. Not yet. What I felt was worse. Stupid. Like a fool who spent 5 years patching a sinking boat with duct tape and prayers, while the captain laughed behind his back. The next morning, I was supposed to spend the whole day at the Albany Auto Expo. I'd prepaid the booth, polished up a classic '67 Chevelle for display, even printed new business cards. I lasted 3 hours. Every time someone asked me about engine work, all I could picture was my dad's red face and that smug grin as he called me a burnout. So I packed it up, threw the cards in the trash, and drove straight back downstate. Didn't even turn on the radio, just silence and rode. Back at home, I went straight to the filing cabinet in my garage office and pulled out the folder. Thick manila one, labeled in black Sharpie, Dad Medical. That thing had been growing like a tumor since the day I dropped out. Every bill, every receipt, every hospital statement, insurance letter, denied claim, pharmacy printout. I tossed it in the passenger seat and drove to a diner off Route 9, the one Miranda always picks for family meetups. She was already there, sitting in a booth, scrolling on her phone. She looked up, saw my face, and didn't ask a single dumb question, just nodded. I sat down, pulled the folder out, and slapped it on the table. "This," I said, "is the last 5 years of my life." She opened it. First page, PT invoice, $20,100. Second, MRI copay, $860. Then prescriptions, home nurse visits, stair lift rental, orthopedic braces, mobility van repairs, endless damn receipts. She kept flipping. Her jaw dropped a little more with every page. "Holy crap," she muttered. "There's like dozens of these." 90 grand, I said. Rough math. Could be more. Miranda looked at me like I'd just told her I had a second family in Canada. "You paid all this?" "Every dime," I said. Did the paperwork, took the calls, drove him to every appointment, while everyone else just acted like he was some poor old guy with bad luck. She leaned back, shook her head, and let out a long breath. "And he calls you a burnout?" "Yeah," I said, laughing without humor. "Burnout mechanic dropout. That's me." Miranda slammed the folder shut and looked me dead in the eye. "This is disgusting." I knew he could be a jerk, but this? He straight up conned you. I nodded slowly. "Yeah, and I let him." I didn't even feel sad about it anymore. I felt sharp, cold almost, like something had finally snapped into focus. "I'm done," I said. "No more bills, no more calls. I'm not his bank account, his driver, his social worker. He's on his own." Miranda stared at me like she didn't recognize the version of me sitting across from her. I pulled out my phone, opened the website for the aviation school I'd left 5 years ago, and clicked re-enroll. She smiled. "You serious?" "Dead serious. Time to finish what I started." "Damn right," she said. I picked up the folder, held it for a second, then dropped it back in my bag. "Next time he wants help," I said, "he can ask the people who laughed at his jokes." We paid the check, and I walked out of that diner, already picturing the sky. By the time I got home from the diner, I already had a list in my head. I didn't sleep that night, just brewed coffee, sat at my desk, and started going down the line. First thing Saturday morning, I called Dad's primary care clinic and revoked my name from every emergency contact form. Took 5 minutes. Then I hit the insurance provider, Blue Cross. Told them I was canceling the automatic payment card and removing myself from all correspondence. The lady on the line tried to talk me out of it. I cut her off. "Not my responsibility anymore. Take me off." Next, the pharmacy. Then the orthopedics place that sent him braces every 3 months. Then the outpatient center that handled his physical therapy. I had this routine memorized after 5 years. It was just the first time I did it in reverse. I signed out of his MyChart account, deleted the saved logins, shredded the renewal notices, and tossed out the sticky notes with claim numbers and Medicaid reps I used to keep stuck on the fridge. While I did all this, my phone kept lighting up. "Dad, why isn't my insurance working?" "Dad, the clinic just canceled my appointment. Fix this now." "Dad, call me now." I didn't reply. Didn't even open them after the first few. Just turned on Do Not Disturb and kept going. That night, I wrote one email, one long, detailed message, and sent it to everyone in the family group chat. Aunts, uncles, cousins. Subject line, "Since nobody had my back, here's what you missed." I laid it all out. Every dollar I'd paid, every appointment I'd driven him to, every fight with an insurance rep, Every night, I stayed up arguing with billing systems so he wouldn't lose coverage. I attached a PDF scan of the folder, line by line, time-stamped, signed. I ended it with one sentence. I handled this alone, and I'm ending it alone. About an hour later, Miranda sent me the full video file from the live stream. Miranda, just in case. I downloaded it, saved it in 3 places: cloud, USB, and a backup drive in my safe. That was the last piece. Sunday night, I went back onto the aviation school website, submitted my transcript, confirmed my class slot, and officially re-enrolled. No hesitation, no looking back. Before bed, I wrote one final thing, a short letter I printed out and stuck in an envelope addressed to my dad. Just one sentence, written in black ink. "You'll be getting a new insurance letter. Read it. I'm not your caretaker anymore." I sealed it, stamped it, and dropped it in the mailbox the next morning. Didn't need to add anything else. He knew what it meant. It was exactly 7 days later, just past noon on a Sunday, when I heard the knock. Not a polite tap, not even a heavy thump. It was straight up pounding, like someone wanted to rip the door off the hinges. I didn't even have to check the peephole. "Open the damn door," Dad's voice, raspy, slurred, already halfway into yelling. I didn't move at first, just stood in the kitchen, coffee in hand, heart beating steady. "Come on," he shouted. "You think this is funny? You screwed up everything, my meds, my appointments. What the hell's wrong with you?" I walked to the front hall, slow and calm, and stood on the other side of the door. "I heard what you said," I told him. "You made your thoughts pretty clear. So this is just the consequence?" "You're punishing me?" he scoffed. "Are you serious right now? After everything I've done for you?" That one almost got me to laugh. Almost. I kept my hand off the knob. My voice didn't shake. "You want to talk about what you've done for me?" I said. "Man, what I did for you could fill books. Chapter after chapter of me cleaning up your life while you sat on your ass and let me burn out. I raised you," he snapped. "Fed you. Gave you a roof." "You were drunk most nights," I fired back. "I fed myself. And later, I fed you. For 5 damn years." He started banging on the door again. "You ungrateful little..." I cut him off. "No, we're done. You had your moment. In front of the whole damn family. Called me a loser. Mocked everything I gave up for you. You think there's coming back from that?" Silence for a second, then more pounding. "You think this makes you better than me?" he shouted. "You're abandoning your own father." I stepped back and looked out the side window. He looked smaller than I remembered, worn out, hair messier, eyes wild. "I'm not abandoning anyone," I said. "You just finally ran out of free rides." He started into another rant, something about family, loyalty, sacrifice. I walked to the window, reached up and pulled the blinds down. Then I turned off the porch light. He was still yelling, still pounding, but it all sounded far away now, like noise from a TV in another room. I didn't open the door. Didn't answer again. I just walked back to the kitchen, poured another cup of coffee, and leaned against the counter. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel guilt clawing at my ribs. I felt relief. Like I'd finally stopped dragging a dead weight I never asked to carry. By Monday morning, the family group chat was on fire, Aunt Debbie. "I heard you locked your own father out. What the hell is wrong with you?" Cousin Rachel. "Wow, real mature. You just gonna leave him to rot?" Aunt Lisa. "Selfish. He raised you. You owe him better than this." I scrolled through the messages, deadpan, then muted the thread for a full year. Nobody had a clue. They weren't there for the hospital visits, the billing fights, the late-night trips to pick up his damn prescriptions when the pharmacy closed in 10. They just saw a pissed-off old man with a loud voice and figured I must be the problem. The only two who didn't jump on the outrage train? Miranda and Uncle Theo. She texted me every day just checking in. Short stuff. No pity. Just solid. Theo called midweek while I was changing brake pads on a Civic. "Kid," he said, no intro, just straight to it. "Some people don't deserve a second chance. You gave your father 5 years of them." That one hit different. I didn't say much, just yeah and thanks. I spent the rest of the week diving headfirst into class prep, picked up my textbooks from the campus store, started reviewing turbine systems, even printed out flashcards like I was 20 again. It felt weird. Good though, like a door was cracking open. The garage? I scaled it back fast. Posted a notice that we'd be moving to part-time service. Called up my buddy Nate, guy I used to work with at a tire shop years back, and offered him weekend hours to cover the overflow. You sure, man? He asked. You're always slammed. Not anymore, I said. I got a new plan. I passed my re-entry test the following Thursday, walked out of that room with the kind of quiet confidence I hadn't felt since I was 19. One of the instructors, older guy, Vietnam vet turned flight mechanic, clapped me on the shoulder. You got the right instincts, he said. You're gonna do fine. Driving home that night, I realized something weird. I wasn't waiting for the next text. I wasn't waiting for Dad to blow up my phone or for some cousin to try to guilt trip me into folding. I was just living, focused, clear, and for the first time in a long damn time, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. The sun was just starting to dip when I walked out of class, flight systems manual tucked under my arm. I had grease on my jeans, jet fuel on my sleeves, and a small, stupid grin on my face from nailing a systems quiz that had stumped half the class. Then I saw them, Dad and Aunt Debbie, standing by my truck like they had a right to be there. He leaned on his cane, trying to look casual. Debbie stood stiff, arms crossed, mouth already pinched like she was about to unleash something righteous. I didn't even blink, just kept walking straight toward them. Dad stepped up first. Hey, I figured we could talk, he said, like we were catching up after a long weekend. Like he hadn't screamed through my front door 2 weeks ago or blown up my phone like a psycho. I didn't stop, just opened the truck door and set my manual on the seat. Debbie jumped in. He's struggling, she said. The new insurance isn't covering everything. His back's worse. He can barely sleep. Not my problem, I said flat. Her jaw dropped like I'd slapped her. You can't be serious. I'm completely serious, I said, finally turning to face them. I gave him 5 years, $90,000, my 20s, my degree, my entire damn life. You think this is me being cruel? Debbie pointed a finger like she was about to go full courtroom on me. Family doesn't abandon family, especially not their father. I looked at Dad. He didn't say a word, just stood there like a statue, eyes bouncing between the pavement and the sky. So I made it easy for both of them. You know what finally did it? I asked. Not the money, not the sacrifices, not even the medical crap. It was that video, the one where he called me a burnout to all of you. Debbie blinked. What video? Oh, you didn't see it? I said. Miranda streamed it, family dinner. He was drunk, laughing, mocking me and my garage. Called me a dropout, a loser. While you all just sat there laughing along like it was stand-up night, her face started to change, eyebrows pulling in, lips parting like she didn't know what to say for once. Dad finally spoke, voice low. I was just venting. You know how it gets at those dinners. You weren't venting, I snapped. You were honest, and for the first time, I believed you. Debbie looked at him. Is that true? He didn't answer. Just looked down at the gravel, jaw tight. I stepped into the truck, hand on the doorframe. You want sympathy? I said. Try the cousins you made laugh. Maybe they'll cut your pills and drive you to therapy. I climbed in, slammed the door, started the engine. As I backed out, I caught one last look in the mirror, Debbie turning to him, already grilling him with something I couldn't hear, and him, still looking at the ground like he hoped it would swallow him whole. I pulled out of the lot without slowing down. Didn't feel angry, didn't feel smug, just done. Completely, finally done. 2 weeks later, I stood in front of a banquet hall crowd, clean-shaven, wearing a borrowed blazer and holding a plaque that read, Outstanding Adult Student Comeback, like it was made of solid gold. The dean said a bunch of nice things I barely heard, something about perseverance, real-world grit, leadership under pressure. All I could think about was the way the stage lights bounced off the lacquer finish of the plaque in my hands. I didn't clap for myself. I just stood there, nodding while everyone else did. Afterward, they served rubbery chicken and dry rolls, but I didn't care. The important part came during dessert, when a woman in a sharp gray suit sat down next to me. Sam, right? She said. I'm with Aerotech Group. I saw your work on that turbine simulation project. Mind if we talk shop? She handed me a card with a direct number and a company email. That felt better than the plaque. I was halfway through explaining my diagnostics project when my phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out under the table. Text from Miranda. Miranda. Dad's in the ER. Bad reaction to new meds. Uncle Theo's with him. They're asking if you can come help answer questions. I stared at the message. Didn't type back right away. Next to me, the recruiter kept talking. Something about job openings in Pennsylvania and relocation packages. I nodded along, eyes drifting to the screen again. Another buzz. Miranda. No pressure, just letting you know. I slipped the phone into my jacket and looked up. Sorry, I said to the recruiter. Family thing came up, but I'm good for a follow-up call next week. She smiled. No problem, you've got my card. I looked back down at the plaque in my lap. The thing weighed more than it looked. Solid wood, engraved metal plate, felt backing, real, and for once, the weight didn't feel like a burden. It felt like proof. I picked up my phone again and finally texted Miranda back. Me. Tell Theo I'll come, after the event. I didn't bolt for the exit, didn't panic. I sat through the rest of the dinner, shook the dean's hand again, thanked my instructors, even posed for a group photo. Nobody else at that table knew what was waiting for me after dessert. But for once, it didn't matter. Because I wasn't running toward it. I was walking on my own terms. And I had something to bring with me that Dad couldn't take credit for. I pulled into the ER parking lot a little after 10. The place was quiet, just a few scattered cars and the glow of that washed-out red emergency sign above the entrance. Inside, the air smelled like bleach and old socks. I followed the directions Miranda had texted and found Dad's room on the second floor. He was propped up in bed, arms crossed, hooked to an IV, face flushed with that same bitter, half-drunk tension I'd seen 100 times. Miranda sat in the corner, phone in her lap. Uncle Theo stood near the window, arms behind his back like he was guarding something. Dad's eyes locked on me the second I walked in. Oh, now he shows up, he snapped. Glad you could squeeze me in. I didn't even look at him. Just walked over to the side table and set my award down with a quiet clack. His eyes dropped to it, then shot back up. What's that supposed to mean? This, I said calmly, is what I've been doing while you've been out there calling me a burnout. Miranda sat up straighter. Theo raised an eyebrow. Dad barked out a laugh. Oh, come on, you're seriously still mad about that? That was just family dinner. Jokes. You know how it is? Theo looked between us, confused. What jokes? Miranda cleared her throat. He doesn't know, she said. About the video. Dad's face stiffened. What video? Theo asked again. She pulled out her phone. The one where he trashed Sam at Aunt Lisa's. I streamed the whole thing. He called him a dropout, a loser, said fixing cars was a joke. Whole table laughed. Theo turned to Dad, slow and deliberate. Is that true? Dad shifted in the bed, tried to wave it off. They took it out of context. I was venting. Everyone was drinking. You called me a failure, I cut in. Laughed about the garage I built to support you. Mocked everything I gave up. It wasn't taken out of context. It was the context. Silence. Dad opened his mouth again, but I held up a hand. Don't, I said. This isn't a fight. I came here because they needed someone to answer your medical history. Theo frowned. That's it? That's it, I said. I'm not here to patch things up. I'm not here to talk about the past or the insurance mess. I'm here to answer a few questions, and then I'm gone. Dad's voice cracked just a bit. You're really gonna stand there and act like I meant to hurt you? I stared him down. You didn't care if it hurt. That's worse. Miranda looked away. Theo looked like he wanted to say something, but didn't. I turned to the nurse standing by the door. You need history, meds, allergies, past procedures. I've got it all memorized. She nodded and walked in with a clipboard. I rattled it off like a script. Surgery dates, med doses, specialist names, his last MRI. 5 years of knowledge, dumped out in 2 minutes. When I finished, I stepped back, grabbed the plaque, and looked at Dad one last time. I don't need an apology, I said. I need distance. So whatever this is now, it's yours to deal with. He didn't speak, didn't move, just sat there staring at his hands. I walked out without waiting for anyone to follow. And for the second time that month, I left him sitting in silence, finally forced to listen to it. 3 months later, I was knee-deep in grease again. Only this time, it wasn't busted brake lines or leaky oil pans. It was a Cessna 172 with a faulty starter, sitting on the tarmac at a regional strip just outside Kingston. Part-time tech work, full-time student. The balance I never thought I'd have. I'd finish class in the morning, grab a sandwich, then head straight to the hangar. Tools in hand, jet fuel in the air, propellers humming 20 feet away. This was the dream. The interview came out of nowhere. A local TV crew visited the school, covering a segment on second chance careers. One of the instructors threw my name out. Next thing I knew, I was standing in a hangar with a mic clipped to my shirt, trying not to sweat through my collar. I told them the truth. Not all the drama, just the basics. Dropped out. Took care of someone who needed help. Came back stronger. The clip went mildly viral. Nothing crazy, just enough for people to share it around town. A week later, Uncle Theo called. "Saw you on TV," he said. "You looked sharp. Handled yourself well." "Thanks," I said, flipping through a diagram on turbine exhaust systems. He paused, then added, "Your dad saw it too. Didn't say much." I let that hang for a second. Then I said, "Yeah, well, he doesn't have to." I hung up feeling not smug, not bitter, just solid. I didn't need his approval anymore. That need had dried up and blown away somewhere between the ER and the classroom. My life was full now. I had classes I actually wanted to attend, a job that didn't drain my soul, friends I could count on. No more silent weight on my shoulders, no more one-way loyalty. The manila folder, Dad Medical, was boxed away in a bin labeled Old Files, shoved in the back of the garage behind tool cases and broken extension cords. I hadn't touched it since the night I dropped it in there, and I didn't plan to. That night, I sat at my kitchen table with a notebook open and diagrams spread out in front of me. One showed the full structure of a twin-engine plane. I traced the fuel line path with my pen, smiling without realizing it. The sky wasn't the limit anymore. It was just the beginning.